Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. My very special guest today, Lila Forde. She's in on the show, and she's also on NBC's The Voice season 24. She had an incredible four-chair turn. Now, I've watched The Voice for a long time, and I haven't seen that happen that often. And I meant to look up and find out, see if I could find a fun fact on that. You know how many times in this all the seasons over the years, all the shows that they've done, there's been a four-chair turn? Lila, welcome back, by the way.
I don't know how many times.
I asked the question years ago on, I don't know, maybe season 18 or something of a guest, and there had it, and I looked it up, and there hadn't been that many. When you consider all the shows, I think it's pretty rare. It's a pretty rare occurrence.
I'm
Congratulations.
honored. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So you were raised in Seattle. You studied jazz. If you're just joining us, I'm going to catch you up. Lila studied jazz voice at the USC Thornton School of Music. You fell in love with songwriting there. What do you love about songwriting? And how did you fall in love with it? Like, what was the moment? Was there a song, or was there just something came to you and you're like, I'm good at this. I love this.
Yeah, I took a songwriting class my second year of college, and I'd written a little bit before, but not really. And the songwriting class, he kind of just, whereas a jazz education, it's like really complicated. There's all these really intense, advanced things that stress you out. In this songwriting class, he was just like, you feel something, you can do one chord and then another chord, and that's your verse and that's your chorus. And I was like, oh, it's that simple. Oh, okay. And so I just started writing. I just started writing. I don't know how it happened, but after I kind of had that realization that it doesn't need to be this, I don't need to be Duke Ellington. I don't need to be Mozart. I don't need to be some virtuosic yet. We'll get there, but you can just start from square one, basic human emotions. How do you feel? Um, and the other thing that I really loved about songwriting is that I think I have a kind of a unique voice. It's very different from a lot of other people's voices, and specifically in the way that I sing. And so sometimes, finding songs that fit your instrument can be challenging, but when you write, you can just write songs that fit your instrument the best and that actually highlight and showcase the most beautiful parts of your instrument. So it gave me a sense of like liberation and freedom. Oh, now I can really use this voice to its greatest potential through my original music. So that felt like a pretty profound realization, and then from there it just never stopped.
Hmm. You said this in the first part of the show, and if you missed it, you can go back and listen to the podcast. I encourage you to. When we were getting to know you a little bit, you said that every experience, and I'm not quoting you accurately here, but kind of paraphrasing, every experience that you've had from gigging to USC to the tour to work, your mother, and how she inspired you as a classical pianist, everything has built on on I guess built your instrument, your voice, your craft, your art. So everything adds to it, right? Um,
Absolutely.
what about, you were raised in Seattle. I think this is such an interesting childhood, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about this. Um, Seattle, a lot of rain, right? A lot of gray, a lot of,
Oh
but a
yeah.
lot of beauty, such beauty up there. I'd imagine very inspirational, but very moody, maybe. And then now you live in Los Angeles, and it's probably the opposite of that, very sunny, and it's always sunny in LA. Um, there's such a difference there. Does the weather, the locations in your life, the two strong areas that you're in now, that you've grown up in or lived in, do they affect your music, your songwriting?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely have grown soft since I moved to LA, and then when I go back to Seattle, I can't stand the cold, I can't stand the dark, I can't stand all of it. But growing up in Seattle in the kind of interesting way that I did really, I think, added to my just my data as a human being that then adds to my artistry.
Mhm.
So Yeah, it was pretty, it's dark, it's dreary up there. And I remember like taking the bus to high school and I had to be there at 8 a.m. So that means I had to catch the bus at 7 a.m. And the sun doesn't like the sun doesn't come up until 8:45 in the wintertime. And so I'm just in the pitch black, it's pouring rain, walking to the bus. Sometimes if I were late, my mom would take pity on me and she would drive me to the bus stop. But I would sit on the bus and I would read my book and I would practice my songs and I would think of, like I wouldn't trade it for the world. And of course, the summers in Seattle are it's the most beautiful place in the world. The
Yeah.
sun doesn't set until, 10:30 p.m. It comes up at 4 a.m. So there's the duality. And my parents still live up there. They have this wild sort of piece of property up on in the San Juan Islands that we go up to. They host retreats and they're meditation hippie type people. Um, which is
So are
complete.
mine.
Really?
Yes. Well, we
Okay.
actually have a lot of parallels. I lived up in Pacific Northwest, up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Oh,
Uh,
you did? Nice.
very religious family, hippie family.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was reading your USC. There's some
I know we
similarities.
got a lot. We got a lot in common. I love that, Jeremiah. Okay, cool.
But go
Um,
ahead. I'm sorry.
what was I? So I guess the Seattle and LA, they're starkly different. Not just in the weather, obviously, but in the culture too. I went to this sort of like hippie charter school. It's called the Waldorf School, where it's like alternative learning. You're outside, you're not just shoved in a classroom. You're gardening and you're woodworking and you're learning to sew and you're playing music and you're doing all these things. So
That
um,
sounds great.
yeah, it was a really wonderful way to be a child and to develop as a child. I'm so grateful to my parents for putting me in that school, even though I was really mad at them at times when everybody else, like when I was in choir, everybody else went to public school and had a cell phone. They went to normal school, and I didn't have a cell phone till way, way, way later. I wasn't allowed to like really watch TV. They would say, just go outside, go play outside. And I remember as a kid being really angry at them, just let me be normal, please. But looking back on it, I'm so grateful that they had those really strong boundaries. And it's even harder now as I'm 24, but media and social media and technology is even more seeped into our culture that it's even harder for parents to have those boundaries now. But I remember coming to LA and being like, oh, everybody here is like it's very it means Hollywood. So everybody moves here to try to become a YouTuber or to like get famous or get discovered or like whatever it was. So I was like, at first when I arrived here, I was like, oh, do I have to play that game to kind of like get what I want? Like I was really unaccustomed to kind of being a networking girl and trying to like open up all these doors for myself. I was really just focused on the music. And honestly, in the end, I'm really glad that I haven't gotten eaten alive by LA. I feel like I've been able to hold true to who I am. The Seattle girl still lives strong in me, and being able to focus on the music and keep that as the holy priority throughout it all has actually given me a leg up. And I think it makes me stand out, especially like on a show like this where it is a lot of, it's television in the end, but I think because of where I came from, I'm very different than anybody they've had before. Sorry, long-winded answer, but there you have it.
This is your show. I only want to hear you. I don't want to talk.
Okay, great.
So tell as long stories as long as you like. So you think that although you resented it like every kid does, that when I don't have what everybody else has, I want to be normal like everybody else. But at the end of the day, do you think that upbringing that you're and the values that your parents instilled on you actually ended up really fueling your art form and your music?
Absolutely, 100%. Because, yeah, I'm so grateful for them because it's really hard to do when your kid is telling you, whatever, I hate you, just let me be normal or whatever. Like, for them to still be like, no, I'm doing this, and in 10 years, you're going to thank me. Because, yeah, they, instead of just putting me in front of the TV, they would say, go outside, go create something, go play the piano, go learn to play the guitar, go draw something, go be creative. So it gave me like the tools that I still use today for
Yeah.
my creativity, for my art form, for my career, essentially. And I'm not, yeah. So looking back on it, I will do the same thing to my children. And it might be hard. It probably will be even harder, but I'm so grateful for my parents for laying that foundation for me.
Yeah. Well, thank you to your parents.
I
It's
know. God bless.
thank you. Yes. Uh, uh, you know, a young woman trying to make it in the music business in Los Angeles. How many times have you heard that story, or an actress, right? And it chews you up and spits you back out. It's a
Yep.
hard, it could be a hard business if you didn't have that upbringing, probably that moral compass, that strong belief in yourself. But what was it like that first week in LA for you when you plopped in? I don't know how you arrived. Did your parents take you down? When
Yep.
you moved in, did they move you in?
Totally. They moved
And then
me in.
they had to leave, right?
Yeah, and I'm the youngest kid in my family, so I have two older brothers. So I think it was hard. They were empty nesters when they moved me into my freshman dorm. That was the end of they'd done their work was done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But sad for them and sad for you, right?
sad,
In a way,
yeah, it
sad
was
and happy.
sad, bittersweet. It was really bittersweet. It took a while to adjust. I remember the first couple weeks I was in LA, I was like, what on earth have I done? Because I was in a dorm. I didn't have any air conditioning. I was right next to the trash room. It was like I was like, and everybody was like, yeah, kind of how I described. Everybody was like trying to be somebody and trying to like suss out where you are on the social hierarchy to see like what they can get from you. And I didn't feel like I had any capital at that time. I was just a girl, coming to college. And then I'm actually really grateful that I went to USC and built a network there for 4 years and then moved out into the real world. Like versus just moving to LA without going to college, just like plain hard cold, just moving to LA, trying to create a network from nothing. Like creating a network from USC actually it built my community. It made it so I was able to find my people that I do really resonate with, that I do love making music with, holding relationships with, and all that sort of stuff. So that because it got actually even worse once I graduated college and I was in the real world. It got even worse with all those people who are trying to like use you for something or think that they can offer you something, but they just want you. Like I can't tell you how many times I've been at a gig playing and some guy will come up to me and be like, I could be your big break. Like they don't say that specific, like literally, but they're schmoozing like they're, kind of a washed up Hollywood name. They've worked with somebody back in like 1980 something, and they're like, I could really be what you need. And at first I was like, when I would get those sort of offers or that sort of attention, I'd be like, oh wow, okay, cool. And then a couple times it would happen and I'm like, oh wait, this person can't really offer me anything. They just recognize something in me
Hmm.
that they want to capitalize on it before I take off or something like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to like wade through the sharks in this town. You have to have a strong sense of self so you don't get used up and chewed up, and then there's nothing left of your artistry. So this opportunity for The Voice came at the perfect time. I was playing at a gig and somebody heard me.
Okay.
And
I was going to
that's
ask. Well, let's
that's
save that story for the other side of the break, because now we're going to get into the voice a little bit more.
okay, perfect.
Okay, so stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Lila Forde is our special guest today. We're listening to her music throughout the show, and she had one of those, doesn't happen very often, those four chair turns. We're going to let you know who she chose next as her coach. So we'll be right back. Stay with us. Lila, before we leave your parents, though, plug they have a business up there, right? It's a resort, a
Yes, they
retreat.
do. I'll
Plug it
plug it.
for them. Yeah.
It's called the Awareness School. You can look up theawarenesschool.com or Awareness School on IG, Instagram. Um, and yeah, they host meditation retreats in the beautiful San Juan Islands in the Pacific Northwest. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced. Check it out, you guys. You don't want to miss this one.
Okay, Lila Forde, she's a singer-songwriter. Her album is In Another Life. It's inspired by fusion of jazz and folk. All I Expected is her new single. We're going to play it in its entirety at the end of the show here. Gwen Stefani says of Lila, this is what the world needs, a true singer-songwriter that's original and unique, that's not trying to be anyone else. You're my dream voice girl to work with. God, Gwen Stefani. That uh, that's got to go on your resume somewhere.
I
John Legend. John Legend says of Lila, what I heard was wisdom. And Reba McEntire says, you are an old soul.
know.
We'll be right back with Lila Forde. Check out Lila Forde's flawless four-chair turn performance of Can't Find My Way Home on YouTube, the Voice Blind Editions. Watch The Voice Mondays and Tuesdays, 8/7 Central on NBC, and streaming the next day on Peacock. Go to lilaforde.com to follow Lila and get her music. We'll be right back.